Hello, this is Paper Cuts Included, coming to you live from the Ninja Turtle sleeping blanket, and that's how I know it's legit. Today we're going to be starting a new segment on the channel, but before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, this is a comic book YouTube channel inspired by the great cartoonist Kayfabe. So what's that mean for you? Well, if you like comic books, comic book art, art in general, or what it takes to be a comic book artist, well, you're in the right place. We look at comic books such as these, put them under the camera, and really dissect the nuts and bolts of what it takes to make a comic book, what it takes to be a comic book artist in 25, and everything in between. This channel is ran by me and my co-host. We're all working artists, so definitely check our work out, our upcoming work, our finished work. Our instas will be in the description, and maybe every once in a while I'll show off some art. But afterward, yeah, let's get into it. This week, we are starting a new segment called Turtle Tuesdays. Every Tuesday this month, we are going to be looking at a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book, starting with my first ever Ninja Turtle book, Return to New York, Book 1. I bought this at a Comic-Con in Hot Springs, Arkansas, 3 or 4 years ago, and immediately the cover just really spoke to me. And this is going to be a little mini lesson. When you notice that comic book or a comic book cover or work that really inspires you, really gravitates towards you, note on why it did. Imitate it. Put in your own art. See what works, see what doesn't. I really love the color usage. Those really cold tones, which are blues, dark tones, and then your warm tones, your reds and oranges. Those really help combine, mixed with the neutral tones of the turtle to really make a very stunning cover. And starring the thunder and lightning, of course. So apologies for that. But again, when you see artwork that really speaks to you, note how it did, note how you can use that in your own artwork, and it'll elevate your level. Everyone steals something from someone. That's just how we are as humans. So, suck it, Warhol. But like I said, this was the first ever turtle book I ever bought, ever read, and also this was the first time I realized Eastman and Laird did not do the whole Ninja Turtle run. I assume from looking out into N that they drew every turtle book, and I was like, oh my god, that's so tedious. But knowing what I know now, knowing all the drama behind the turtles, which we'll talk about more at probably at the end of the video, they did the story for this. We'll actually cut to that now, because it's actually in the back of this book after some really cool ads. But no, so the story is, of course, done by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, and this might be his first turtle book. I need to fact check. This was actually penciled by Jim Lawson, who I believe is a very underrated Ninja Turtle artist. What do I mean by that? Is a lot of people, I feel like if you're not a direct comic book fan, don't know who he is. He did a lot of work with Mirage Studios, has done his own work, such as Dino Island, and I believe his turtle art is just as iconic as Eastman and Laird should be. He worked on this series, the trilogy, Return to New York, which is probably his most acclaimed, and then another big one, City at War, the last turtle story in the original run, which is done really well. The inks are done by Peter Laird, which we'll talk about in a minute. The layout's Kevin Eastman, so the two original artists are still working on it, just in smaller ways. And then letters by Steve Levine, an amazing artist who I got to meet at a Comic-Con also 4 years ago, different Comic-Con, or maybe 2 years ago, at a comic book store in Jonesboro called Jonesy Bonesy or Son. Now they just changed the name, but I'll put a picture of them right here to give them a shout out, because go support your local comics. If you don't, I don't have more stuff to buy, and then there won't be any videos. But Steve Levine was a very interesting guy. He helped create a lot of turtle characters and did some art. Characters such as Wingnut and Screwloose, I believe, which I almost had him sign, but instead I got him to sign my Gobbledygook #1, which it's not a great signature, just because Gobbledygook is kind of a hard book to sign. But thanks again for signing it. If you ever see this video, I asked you a lot of really cool art questions, which we'll talk about maybe at another day. When, who knows, maybe we could talk to him in person again one day. So for all my fans out there, pump this video up so maybe I can meet Steve Levine again. Amazing guy. Thanks again for spending 5 minutes with me just talking about art and my friend. I'll try to find the photo of us together to prove I'm not just some weirdo making this up. But yeah, let's get into the book. So again, this is Return to New York, Book 1. It's a trilogy. Let's get into it. This is the story of the Turtles after getting defeated by the Shredder, have to go to Northampton, the famous farmhouse, and their journey back. It's a trilogy, really good, really cool. Boom, started off with amazing splash page, right? This is how you do a splash page, 2 pages, right? It's incredible. I really love it's the cover. I really love how they frame the artwork, right? They put this is Raphael, spoiler alert, in this storm drain. So it's framed with the end of it, and I think that's really cool. And again, I want to put a character in a storm drain now. I want to make a Leatherhead or Rat King Ninja Turtle art using this as a reference. It's just really cool how you do it. Again, see what you like in a comic book and try it. You can only go so far from just your mind alone. Definitely look at books. Everyone has an inspiration. This could be your inspiration. But no, and a really, I think I noticed this read. So the Ninja Turtles were inspired by Frank Miller's Daredevil by Marvel, if you didn't know, and we just did a video on it. I'll put the thumbnail here. Definitely go watch it, and we talk about Frank Miller's use of these really interesting layout methods. And what I mean by layout is the panel work. It wasn't just one big panel surrounded by a lot of little panels, or vice versa. He really just strive to do better panel layouts, and I believe you see the direct inspiration here. We'll try to find some references in some of those Daredevil books I bought, but I think I saw this exact panel layout in one of those books, and that was their influence. Like I said, you can find influence from this book, find influence from Frank Miller. It's just real interesting, and it's also done to move the story along. It's not just to look pretty. As he's in the storm drain, it's dripping on a newspaper. We see the old newspaper says December 23rd, I believe is what it's called, or what it's dated. And then we cut to December 19th. So a way to show that we're going from one point to another. A really interesting way to show time regressing or going forward, which will happen later in the book. And now we're at the famous farmhouse. Raphael's had it. He's itching for a fight again. Showing all the turtles in different modes, right? We have Mikey training, Raph stewing, and Donnie tinkering. So, of course, the great traits of the characters. Raph's a rude but crude guy. Mikey, well, he's training, so that's a little weird for him. And Donnie's tinkering. So, interesting. And again, the panel layout, they're utilizing all this negative space really well. I talked about this maybe a couple videos ago when I was in art school, just graduated with, by the way, whoop whoop. I had professors who were like, if you're using negative space, then you're failing. You have to fill your canvas or whatever 100%. You cannot even have a hint of negative space, or they're in the void. They're proving them wrong right here. The great page layout. Now, granted, figure out how you want to do it. Don't just wing it and say, "Oh, I'm using negative space. It looks amazing." Figure out how to do it right, and you can look at books like these and really, answer that question. You're making your page layouts dynamic by utilizing that negative space and the panels, and it makes it a much more interesting book. I would like to see what other books came out in 1989 that look similar to this. Oh, we're almost there. But no, we have Raph freaking out. He wants to go back to New York. He's, pissed off that they've just been here licking their wounds for a year, I believe is the time spent from Shredder coming back to now them just growing old, fat, lazy. And, Raph doesn't want to be part of it. He wants to leave. Whereas the others are like, nope, Leo's the boss. We can't leave without Leo. Let's just cut to it because it's such an amazing little thing. Is what a great shot of Leo, right? Coming in, great use of shading, great use of ink. I guess we could talk about the ink for a second. Since Peter Laird is the inker on this, we get to see his inking talents, and it does reflect his artwork a lot. It's not as bold and expressive as Kevin Eastman's. I'll put a photo of it up here, but it's a lot more subtle and just very, I don't know, restricted. But we have a couple more of his inks. These are 2 pieces he did of some dragons. Definitely check out Gobbledygook if you haven't. One's really, really expensive. This one I think is like a $20 copy. But no, his inking's very, I feel, a lot more technical Then Eastman, I feel Eastman just strives on that raw energy that has made his artwork very famous, very iconic. Whereas Laird is, Laird's older, so probably did just have that more, art school training. Or I don't know if he went to art school. I think he did though. At least took figure drawing. Um, I believe is what Steve told me. It might have been Eastman and not Laird though. But we'll talk about that a different day. So just the inking difference is, here I feel it's more refined and less energetic and kind of sets the tone of the book, especially in this scene, right? They're at a farm. They're not about to go fight the Foot. We don't need that giant ink throwing style that Eastman has. We need that refinedness. And that could just be a call for how does inking change the theme of your book, the tone of your book, what you might want, what you might not want, and how an inker can really affect how your book is. I kind of suck at inking at the moment. I want to get better. Let me know if there's any tips that you guys know down in the comments. But, back to the story. Leo is saying, nope, I'm the leader. We're not leaving. That's the end of it. When I say it's time, it's time. And a cool feature is, oh, that's Raph right there. That's Leo. They have different nose shapes to tell them apart. It's the small things that make your big, or it's the small things that make your comic book become the big thing, right? A lot of people just draw the same turtle, and no one will know who it is. This is a black and white book. If you have two characters that look alike, make one of them wear a tie or a hat or something, or no one's gonna know it. And just that subtle change of the nose, boom, genius, right? And again, using these really interesting panel layouts, right? I don't think you can use them without directly copying them because they're just that different. Sorry if the camera is shaking real bad. We are trying a new setup, and I don't think it's going to last after this video. The table we're using is a lot more light, so I guess it shakes a lot more. So sorry for the shakiness again. Hopefully that doesn't turn a lot of people off. Yep, great use of zipatone paper right there, that texture effect. And it's almost like you could tell Raph's getting madder as the darker it gets, right? The famous Raph trait, he's about to, as my students would say, crash out, right? And, you know, think about stuff like that in book. That might just be me reading too far into it, right? We start from white as the wooden sword's getting tapped, that probably that annoying sibling of I'm going to keep touching you and you're not going to do anything. And then when you finally snap, you snap. And we just see that with the darker it gets, the pissed off Raph. But utilizing negative space. Again, you're not getting super detailed Daro level backgrounds, and you don't need that in every book you do. Save yourself some time, figure out what works, what doesn't in your book. Maybe not having a bunch of background really, adds up to these amazing, big panels and the amazing sewer scene we'll see later in this book. But no, we'll start to get a really great fight scene between Raph and Leo with another really great use of negative space. They're just on a desert, an iceberg, right? But to me, that looks really good. I bet to a lot of people it looks really good. Drawing that small might seem easy, but you start to get a little nitpicky with your own art. Great use of zipatone paper, great use of color, or the lack of color, I should say. You know, if you really want to know how to make a black and white book, definitely go look at the Ninja Turtles, the black and white stuff. It looks really good, you know. But yeah, although I will say they do look a lot alike. But how do you solve that? You give one a sword, you don't give one a sword. Leo's got a wooden sword, Raph's just got his fist. Very the thing, right? It's clobbering time. But no, just more just action. And that's what I love about the Turtles is when they fight, very energetic, very great fight scene. It's just Frank Miller, Daredevil with the hand is what they call their Foot Clan, right? So if you want just good action, definitely check out these books out. But there's a lot of things in these books that come off really good. And this could be one of the ways you study a fight scene or how to do zipatone. I wish they still made zipatone paper. I would love to get my hands on some. I don't know why they stopped making it. I guess it was too hard when all you have to do is just have a texture on digital art. But I refuse to do digital art, only to be stubborn about it. Maybe I should. My friend, I think, is about to start messing with it, so maybe I should too. Maybe I can pirate his Procreate or something. I don't know. But no, it's a what 4, 5, 6 page fight, and this I believe is 40 pages a book, so 120 pages altogether. Great trilogy right there. That's a lot of pages. Some people don't think about comic books and pages. Definitely look at it because every panel, every segment of something's got to be drawn, right? And that again might be why they're using really well all the negative space. Is if you have to draw 120 pages and each page has at least one panel, you're gonna have to save you some time. But no, Lawson really showing his strengths. I wonder if this was the audition of sorts. Is, hey, draw 6 pages of turtles fighting. Let's see how it looks. If it looks good, you got the job. If it doesn't, you can work at our Tundra company in a couple years, and get paid $20,000 to do nothing for some people. Well, Raph gets the better end of Leo. It almost looked like Leo was going to win, but I believe Raph's rough and tougher look gets the better of him. Literally picks him up and throws him through a just random wall. And again, maybe that's why you have negative space for these background. All the wood super detailed. It looks like a Northampton barn would. And that, is where Eastman and Laird hail from relatively. So, I'm sure they just went in a family or a friend's barn, took a photo, maybe threw something through it. But it's not real hard to just draw broken boards. But what I noticed on this read is there's a Daredevil poster right there. Boom, right? I'm not crazy. Direct influence. They even talk about it. What? Yeah. Great word balloon, too. Having a real thick groan to break up all the line work of all the intricate wood. Yeah, do that. A thought bubble just can't be a circle with a squiggly on it. Excuse me. Doing text is just as important as the book, and it's maybe even a little bit more of a science because everyone's like, oh, I'm a great wordist. Here's me spelling BAMP. Oh, that looks horrible. That ruins the whole flow of the book. A bad letterer can really ruin your book. So if you suck at lettering, find someone who's good at it. If you found someone who's good at it, keep them. Go buy them a NECA figure. Go buy them a box of chocolates. Don't piss them off because they can ruin your book. Same thing with an inker. A bad ink job, well, that'll just throw some bad ink on your book. And then who's going to buy your bad inked and bad lettered book if you pissed everyone off? Nobody. And that's one of the hidden talents of the Eastman group is at the beginning and relatively saying they just have a lot of friends. And it was for a while, a fun environment to work in. Granted, there was some drama here and there. They got so busy, lawsuits everywhere from a lot of people saying they created the turtles or they created an aspect of it. You know, just part of it. But that's something they talk about. Something another artist, Michael Allred's, talked about is having those connections of friends really pays off because you get to make some incredible work. So, if you're listening to this and you have a little bullpen of friends, colleagues, peers, keep them around. Give them some work every now and again. See if you can get work from them. Keep those connections strong because those can land you those $20,000 Tundra paychecks, or getting someone to do a random card design for you for a card game. Maybe more on that later. But no, Raph leaves, and now we're already back to New York. I believe there is a Lawson. I saw this on Google Images a while ago. Return to New York, book 1.5. I have no idea what the hell that is, but it looked cool. Let me know if you've seen it or if it's a real thing or if that was just a fever dream I just had like 10 minutes ago. But no, back to New York, and now we're gonna get a bunch of stunning sewer scenes. Like these look like this looks like the Colosseum in Rome to me, which essentially it becomes because Raph, who's I guess been hiding here for about 5 days, isn't gonna let some stinking foot into his lair, right? And again, great. I love the foot design. I've been trying to get more foot soldiers in my NECA collection. All I have is the foot elite right now, or the elite guard or whatever. He's the one with the funny hat. I want more, a lot more actually. I love the foot design. It's a great ninja design. And again, work on your character design. See what works, see what doesn't. You might not think the bug eyes work, but they might work. So now we're just going to get these amazing panel shots of the sewer, all the bricks, all the holes, all the pipes, all the muck of being in a sewer, and we're going to get even more fight scenes, right? And again, maybe that's why you put so much great negative space at the beginning, to spend more time inking, drawing, laying out these incredible sewer scenes, right? I can only imagine what this might look like in color. I don't know if they've done the color classics for these. I'll have to check. And now we're just going to get Raphael fighting with the freaking foot. I love this right here. The way they cut, this panel off, but the foot's right there. So really it goes out to there. This might be my favorite thing looking at the book, is all the just wacky, interesting, innovative panel layouts. So keep that in mind. I'm sure some people are like, you say the same thing 5 times every video. Panel layout, be creative. Some people don't know, or some people need a reminder. We can also talk about the great inking jobs, the great hatching. There's always been great hatching in Ninja Turtle comics. The great sound effects from Levine, right? All these 4 people coming together make this trilogy amazing. This might be, on a list of top turtle books, not in any order, because I don't want people, rage masturbating in the comments. But, you got people like, or books like number 1, of course, the trilogy, Veach's The River, just, and a lot of that contributed to just Eastman and Laird having friends and working together. Maybe this book doesn't exist in this fashion media, fanboying out, if, Eastman and Laird didn't meet Levine and Lawson, right? Maybe a lot of stuff doesn't happen. Maybe Veach doesn't make, The River, or Dave Sim. They don't do the crossover with Cerebus, It's just, remember who you know and have them work with you, because then you might make the next Return to New York trilogy, you know. And I love Raph's design here. It's just a simple change, just adding a cloak on him, but it does make him look a lot more rugged in my mind. In one of my favorite Raph designs, I'm still looking for the NECA Lawson turtles. They're I didn't think they would hike up in price as much as they did. I thought they would be clearance turtles, but now I think any of them are like $40 a pop, and I'm not spending 160, probably 200 after eBay shipping and handling and taxes on 4 figures. Not when I'm fine with some of my other turtle stuff. But I'm ranting. I digress. The great shading, all the action. You can never say a turtle book is very stagnant. It's the opposite. A turtle book is probably defined by its, flow. Like, we can know that Foot Ninja's coming down with those 2 swords, about to try to strike Raph. These Foot are coming to stab him in the back, and we know Raph's going to have to fight him off in his bruiser style. He really does remind me of the Thing, of just how much of a brawler he is. Raph's my favorite turtle, if you can't tell. But he's not my favorite character. That would be Casey Jones. But no, and he does have that brawler look, grabbing people as they're kicking, getting in close. Like Marv from Sin City. Maybe that could have been another development on. I know Sin City hadn't come out yet. I don't believe. Let's fact check that. This came out in '89. The first Sin City came out in, with my handy dandy computer. Let's see, came out in, I believe, in the 90s. 91, so 2 years after this. So, but, it inspires me to really do more. Noticing Marv's like Raphael, Raphael's like Marv, cool. Cool thing to notice. Maybe I'll do a Raph as Marv for like a Halloween costume. That'd be a cool little sketch. You'll love Halloween sketches. But no, look at how they use the black and then the Zipatone paper, right? Because we know he's in probably a pitch black sewer, but we have to show the lighting somehow. So using that, paper as a technique, really ingenious. If you do digital art, figure out how to do that. Because that could, elevate your book from, let's say, one tier to the next. And it's just little things like that. And knowing how to ink your characters, how to shade your characters. Shading really adds to a book. And then color really adds to a book. Don't just be a simple, I do simple sketches and that's all I do. push it to the next level. Right? And now we're even going to have even more foot come, right? So it's just a story of how the hell is Raph going to fight all these? It's a great story. It's action packed. We're seeing so many different, well, not different, but just so many foot, right? And that's what I loved about this book is as a kid, they fight like 3 or 4 foot, they beat them, and they go eat pizza in the cartoon, and that's it. But now, we're getting wave after wave. Is he going to win? Is he going to not? And this is brutal too. He's killing these foot soldiers. This is when I realized, like, oh, they kill people. In the next issue, they have freaking submachine guns just mowing people, or the foot are trying to mow them down. So it's, just really cool. And this segment too, where you can just imagine the sound effect as he's raking his sai against the sewer wall, right? And I love how it's in black and white. I think this effect would be totally lost if you used, just a light brick, but instead we're seeing that almost lightning just scraping, like, Quint and Jaws with the chalkboard. Boom. And maybe there is a version where it is in the, the bricks, and someone was like, hey, maybe we should try that all in black. Try that. Try everything in your book. Do a panel 5 different ways. See what works, see what doesn't, because that could really add to your book. Let's see. We're just getting more and more Raph action. I'm fanboying the fuck out because I love this book. Rereading it today was a lot of fun. All these great sound effects, Raph going crazy, beating, all these different poses, foreshortening. Like, if you want a John Wick of a book, check this book out. Again, another really cool panel layout with symmetry, right? Studying this book for the panel layout alone is good. Like, I'm fanboying out about that as much as I am the artwork. Just I want to do panel layouts like this now. It's really cool. It's really creative. A lot in art school, whenever they do a comic book project, my art school was not a comic book school. It was an art school. I was an art education major. And we would do comic book, like, projects every other year. And they would be like, oh, you have to do 4 squares totally next to each other. Here's the gutters. Here's that. It's like, no, like, you can look at a book like this and really see how people, like, knock stuff out of the park. Look how much detail they put into the battle-torn Raph, right? We can almost tell his, like, shells probably scratched to hell and has blood from those poor foot soldiers all over him. His garb is all ragged. He's probably got cuts all over his hands. And I think this pose, this stoic, almost exhausted pose really sells that. And we're also seeing Raph get hurt. He's not a Superman-esque character. He can get hurt, and he's going to. He's the bruiser of the group. Or the Goon if you're into hockey. Or, that's not the Goon. The Enforcer. It's just a crappy movie with an enforcer. So that's another thing, is figuring out how your characters are going to be in your world. Are they going to be the Superman level character, which to me is always one of the most boring tropes? Or are they going to be the flawed Daredevil, where, you're going to have to watch Love of Your Life Electra crawl and die in front of you, and then you're going to get your butt kicked in a couple issues, like in freaking Born Again. He gets his ass kicked, several times, actually. And Raph's getting hurt. He's not getting his ass kicked, but, he's not invulnerable, which is important to set up that your characters, can take a lick, they can keep kicking, but there's going to be a point, right, where they do fail. God, look at all the bricks. That's how you make a book, a background, right? You do the bricks. You do the bricks. There's a t-shirt right there. Maybe that'll be like 100 subscriber shirt giveaway or something, like, figure out your setting. And most of this book's in a damn sewer, and that looks really, really good. All the shading. The shading's what makes these work, right? We know a lot of the sewer is going to be in pitch black, which they use that by just having fucking pitch black scenes. It looks really good. So the story so far, he just defeated the foot. He know there's more. He's coming, and now there's dead ones already. And what killed them? What could have possibly killed these foot soldiers? He sees this water, this spawning grounds, if you will, and he smells something horrible, but he knows the smell, but he can't place it. And spoiler alert, it's going to be a Triceraton. I should have brought the figure down, but he's on my top shelf. Next video we will. Zog the Triceraton. which you can't guess it from this panel just yet. But, a great little shot. Raph screaming. And then it becomes the snow that the other turtles, they finally got back there. They've come to either rescue Raph, check on him, see how he's doing. Because it's been 5 days since he left. So, this is before the age of cell phones. What is he supposed to do? Do a payphone in the middle of the day? How's a turtle supposed to get money? Be a lot lizard, with great perspective shots done by the artist. The turtles do really good perspectives because they're jumping from rooftop to rooftop. So if that's another thing you struggle with perspective of New York City, Turtles could be one of those books for you. Oh crap, was I not recording? Oh, I was recording. Oh, I just scared the crap out of me. I thought I wasn't recording for a second. Whoo, that could have been bad. But yeah, and then look at the inking done here. Like it's darker, so we're having more of I feel like this is the most ink layer it's probably thrown on this book, right? That looks like a lot more ink than his usually refined inking, and maybe that was at this point. Maybe Kevin and Eastman, or not Kevin and Eastman and Laird. Once the Turtles got popular, they couldn't draw nearly as much because, like I said, there was always someone wanting a piece of their pie. Hey, I created the turtles this way. Or no, I created the word cowabunga and you stole it. Or there was one story where someone painted Eastman's fence and won like $100,000 for it. And he didn't get it, so he freaking sued Eastman, I believe. So, of course, once that happened, there was no way Eastman and Laird had time to draw. They had to be at court so much. And I know they hated that. So maybe that's why there's not as much inking, or it's more, refined, or negative space. Because Eastman did not have time to ink it. Because he had to be at court the next day for someone who said they invented Belly Bomb, right? But yeah, I always love when the turtles are running through somewhere. They're just very energetic, like I said. Don't make your characters stagnant. Books that are really good for knowing how to do energy. The Turtles, Madman by Mike Allred. You cannot say any panel in Madman is stagnant. Really interesting work. I believe there was another newspaper. There's another newspaper, and now it's December 25th. So another 2 days have passed. So now he's been there half a week, maybe a week, maybe 6 days, something like that. Not mathing right now. So even more time. They go back to the famous turtle lair with the great fake wall. See Raph right there, and that's when we get our first look at Zog with a great little, coming through the beaded, closet. I love how his horns actually poke out before a lot of him does. I said again, it's the little things that make your book become the big thing. I love that look. I'm definitely going to copy that if I do a horn character anytime soon. Maybe I'll have Daredevil coming through a sex shop, and he's going to the adult section, and or maybe like a record. I don't know. I digress. Very rugged look for Raph there, covering one eye up. It's a mix of body language, how to use clothing. Figure out how you want to do that in your book, and then using this L shape for that panel layout. Again, really interesting way to set up this book. I'm very interested to see how this is carried on to the other two issues. And there's our first full look at Zog, the Triceraton, who was a villain in the earlier Turtle book. Not him, or maybe him, but the Triceratons in general, with amazing shading and zipatone paper for these turtles, right? Again, is that the last page? Yeah, it's the last page. That is how you do a amazing, 2-pager. Like, this could be a print all of its own. I'd buy it. I'd hang it up. I love Ninja Turtle art. I love Jim Lawson art. His books also a lot more affordable than Eastman and Laird books, or used to. That's a rant for a different day. But no, that is the end of Return to New York Book 1. Highlights we can talk about. Amazing panel layout. Definitely check it out if you really want to see interesting ways to do panels. Really interesting shading and action. If you love action-packed books, definitely check this book out. And also have some pretty interesting drama behind the scenes. Or not drama, but just highlights. At this point, Eastman and Laird, we're kind of didn't really know how to label the turtles. Do they keep it as the dark and gritty comic book, although the cartoon has they had two fan bases: the young kids who love the wackiness and the campiness of the cartoon versus probably the older kids and adults who love the dark and gritty, Frank Miller inspired ninja story. So here they give their stance. We're not going to put a label on it. There's going to be two fan bases, and there'll be two things to support said fan bases. Having books like these and the cartoon. They're thinking once the kids grow up, they'll get into the dark and gritty stuff. So, real interesting way of seeing it. And they do say they spend a lot of time thinking about it. So, there might be a world where the cartoon only lasts a season and there's a bunch more comics. Or there's not a bunch more comics and the show has like a bunch of animated movies or something. How does that, breakdown work? There's also some really cool ads in it. We have Gizmo and the Fugitoid, miniseries by Peter Laird and Michael Dooney, another influential Mirage comic book artist. We have Ninja Turtles number 22 by, who did this? By Mark Martin. Don't know him as much, but I might own that issue. I might not. Guess who's coming to supper? A Ninja Turtles number 23 ad, and my favorite ad in this book, The Puma Blues by, what's his name? We talk about him in some early videos. Crap, that's gonna bug me. Mazzucchelli, not Mazzucchelli. Zuli, his name's Zuli. Really, really cool artist. We've done a video on Puma Blues that did not do that good. So if you guys can at least go view it for like 5 seconds, that'd be really cool. And look, this is what we're into next Tuesday. So definitely check out next Tuesday's video for just action with a goddamn Triceratops alien monster. Now we're seeing that Kirby influence of he had on the Turtle Boys. So there's our first Turtle Tuesday. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. We couldn't do it without the support of viewers like you. Let me know what your favorite turtle book is. Let me know what your first turtle book is. And like I said, for at least this month, we're going to be posting every Tuesday and Friday. So definitely check out our catalog of videos and our newer videos. So from me to you, I'm going to send you out on some marching orders, and I'm out of here to make Friday's video, Make More Art.